Hello, Lauren.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Could you let us know who are you and what do you do and how do you help people?
Sure. My name is Lauren Valbert. I am originally American, but I've been living in the Netherlands for about 25 years, so quite a long time. I am a trainer and a coach, and I'm also an author, having written a book on imposter syndrome. And
Which is here, by
my
the way.
which is my and my focus for training and coaching is really on helping people, especially women, raise their game and really be able to project confidence, be able to really articulate for themselves and be a strong agent for themselves, which frequently you really need in business to get ahead. And a lot of, especially women, are not given explicit schooling or training in how to really come across in a confident way in business.
Actually, we're in a world which is all the way around.
Yes, very much
And
so.
that's why we're going to go to the subject imposter syndrome.
Right.
Could you explain us what it is and who has it the most?
Sure. Imposter syndrome sounds very fancy, but it is a feeling that literally everybody has. Even if that person looks the most confident ever, they have had at some point the feeling like when they walk into a room, somebody is going to figure out that they're an imposter. They shouldn't be there. They don't know what they're doing, and that feeling of, oh, I don't dare speak up. I don't dare try something new. I don't dare challenge myself in any way. That is imposter syndrome. And it's very insidious. It's very sneaky. And it sounds like a very reasonable voice in your head, but it's telling you stay in your box, stay in your comfort zone. Don't try, don't succeed, don't push yourself. Um, the people who tend to suffer from it more are people who are not reflected in the dominant paradigm, and I will explain what that means. It means if you are in a situation, an environment where there's a whole bunch of people who don't look or act like you're going to feel like an imposter. And so it tends to affect women the most because men tend to be leaders in business still, except for in very specific industries. So when you are looking at leaders, when you're looking at the tops of companies, when you're looking at the people who are on stage at conferences, all this stuff, it still tends to be mostly men. And so you as a woman can say, I must not be good enough to be in those positions or to stand on that stage because I don't look like those people or sound like those people. And it's reinforced again by the fact that men are they tend to receive more encouragement to be confident and to stand on those stages and to take those roles, whereas women do not receive that reinforcement to do that. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. You feel like that because you don't get the reinforcement, and you don't get the reinforcement because you don't ask for it because you don't feel like you're worth it. So it is this thing where it's kind of trapping you. However, it is not only women who feel this way, men who have a neuroprocessing difference. So men with autism or ADHD, they can also feel like this. Men who are not white can often feel like this. Men who are not straight can feel like this because, again, it is about who is kind of represented as successful. And if it's not them, they can feel not successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not surprising because what you're saying is also I met I know different women like with high positions with successful non-business, which they have told me they're going to figure out. I feel like they're going to figure out I'm not good enough and,
Yes.
and I'm going to be fired tomorrow,
Yes.
or they're not going to buy from me, or I should maybe hire a CEO because my company is successful, but it's not because of me.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
You know, you mentioned something in your book really interesting. It starts in the childhood.
Yes.
Could you
It starts in
explain
childhood. So when we are born and are very young, especially under the age of 10, our brains are like sponges. We absorb everything. We absorb everything around us because we are growing our knowledge and information about the world, and that's the way we're supposed to be. And So in a lot of cases, if you grow up with either parents or guardians or teachers or authority figures around you who do not encourage you, you do not become encouraged. You do not become confident. That's obviously a simplification, but one of the things that is very common to hear is if a woman, if a little girl says, "I want to become, I don't know, an astronaut or a fire person or something," they say, "Oh, well, little girl, girls don't do that. That's not something that girls do. Don't you want to become a nurse or don't you want baby?" Like, it happens, I think, less than it used to, but it definitely happens. Hillary Clinton has a very famous story about how she wrote a letter when she was a child to NASA saying, I look forward to someday becoming an astronaut. And they sent her a letter, she still has, it says, well, women can't become astronauts, but you sure could be working, in some capacity in this. So, that, I'm sure it wasn't meant to be keeping her down, but the effect of that, fortunately for her, was to make her angry and more determined. Yeah. But for a lot of people, that crushes their dreams. Yeah. That can really be a disconnect between what they feel in their heart and what they see in the outside world. And that kind of limitations that are put on children, again, probably not meaning to, are carried with you into adulthood. So I really see the effect of that in my clients and my coaching clients when they, when I say, well, have you tried something new, like blah, 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 whatever the thing is that I'm suggesting, and they say, well, I can't do that.
You mean something new in a new career, a new
career, new hobby? I mean, new anything. Okay. I can't do that. Why not? Well, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, well, you haven't tried it yet. I mean, nobody knows. But it is that I cannot fail from the beginning. I have to be perfect thing that is especially carried over from a childhood where where one was really pushed to succeed. I had that in my childhood. I was really pushed to succeed. It was really a thing that if I didn't have all A's, I was in trouble. Like, I really was like, why do you have not all A? And so for me, I grew up feeling like I couldn't try anything new because I might fail. And God forbid I fail. God forbid I make a mistake. So that is a thing that parents do because they're trying to help you succeed, but the way that it's done creates this fear of the new, fear of failing, fear of. So it's hard to be a parent. I am not, I'm not saying in any way that any parent is doing an easy job. They're not. But it is a really good thing to encourage your children to try and when they fail, when they make mistakes, to say, hey, that's a learning thing. Great, pick yourself up. The most important lesson I think that you can learn in childhood is failure is okay, and the most important lesson to learn from failure is to get up and try again. Yeah. And if you are not giving that lesson to your child, they will grow up fearing failure. And that can really limit them in adulthood. Yeah. So that's just one example. There's plenty of other ones, but I think there is an added terror that has happened in recent generations, which is social media. Because, of course, we're not just talking about direct influences. We're talking also about peer influences and social media influences, where, the most obvious example is, women who look like this are normal and right and good, and women who look like you are wrong.
You should be like this.
You should be like this. And if you're not like this, you're not pretty.
Because this is success. Yeah.
This is success. And this is not. And just the fact that women have a success of, like a visual of success, like that they're supposed to strive for it, is insane. What's also happened in the generation of social media is men are also now having a visual of, physical success that they're supposed to be competing for. So that's also happened. But I think for women, that's been going on for longer. We were even talking before we started about, how in the 70s, women, it was really like, you're supposed to look like, you're not even supposed to, you don't bike to work because then you'll look ugly because you'll look sweaty. You were just bringing that example up. That's a great example of how women have been told forever how they're supposed to look.
How they should be, how they should behave, how they should look, how they should pursue success,
Right.
how success looks for them.
Exactly.
They're built to do everything. Well, we don't want to do everything.
Right. So when that used to happen from magazines and from things later in life, in previous generations, now with social media, you're getting it pretty much as soon as you get online.
Yeah.
And I think that that's causing a terrible problem with people's self-image, especially women's.
And it's not
self-image.
helping people that has imposter syndrome.
No.
You mentioned also something quite revealing, that all of us has had it or has it in their lives at certain point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct. It was interesting. I read an article. I think it was in Vanity Fair, about Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix, two very famous actors, male actors, who, when they were filming Gladiator, both said we experienced imposter syndrome really badly during the filming of that movie. We just didn't think we thought we were making a shitty movie. Okay. And we thought nobody was going to like this, and we really felt like we were doing a bad job. So I'm not kidding when I say everybody can feel this. And what I like is that now more and more celebrities are sharing the fact that they feel imposter syndrome and that this is something that they deal with as well. Because, sunlight disinfects. The more that we share about this, the more that we're encouraged to share about this, the more that we can talk about it and it not be this sort of secret shame. Because for a lot of people, it's very crippling. It's very crippling and limiting in terms of they find their little box where they feel safe and they just operate in that for the rest of their lives. And I think that most people, maybe not everybody, but most people can do more than they think that they can do.
Yeah. And you also mentioned or how do we know it? Or how does people figure out or maybe they're hesitating, they're doubting, do I have it, do I not? How do we recognize it?
Right. That's a tricky one to generalize because for everybody, the voice is different. It is dependent on what voices you heard in childhood that limited you.
Is it what you said, like the different persons of imposter?
Yeah, so there are kind of different personas that I have thought about in terms of because there is not one imposter syndrome. People think there is one kind of imposter syndrome. There's not. There are people who feel imposter syndrome at work, but are very confident in their personal life and have, real strong confidence in their hobbies or they're in relationships. It can also be situational, very situational. So I think the kind of imposter syndrome that people think of when they think of imposter syndrome is what I call the eraser, which is somebody who's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I have an opinion. I won't express myself. I'll just be quiet." And that is one kind for sure, and that usually happens when you grow up with a dominant parent or both dominant parents, or are in a situation where a sibling needs a lot of attention, or you're asked to erase yourself, either literally or figuratively. And it is one kind. There are others. I mentioned neuroprocessing differences, people with ADHD or autism, that can also create a different kind of imposter syndrome, where you get into a situation, especially at work, and are thinking, I'm having real problems in this situation. Why does everybody else seem to be fine with it? But it's an open plan office. I can't get any work done because it's just constant noise and the lights. And there are people who really literally cannot operate in an open plan because they can't get anything done. And companies seem to be fine with it, but it's an open plan office. I can't get any work done because it's just constant noise and the lights. And there are people who really literally cannot operate in an often open plan because they can't get anything done. And some companies have kind of figured this out, that this is a problem. Some companies are still like, well, tough, you got to work there anyway. So it varies, but more is being talked about, at least, that is not a thing where they're just difficult or stupid or whatever, that they in fact have a brain processing different. I myself have ADHD, and it took me a very long time to figure out that when I would go home, I'd be exhausted because it was just constant input that I couldn't filter out when I was at the office. And I would get so stressed and so exhausted. And by the end of the week, I was literally, I fell asleep at like 7 o'clock and slept for the whole day because I was wiped out. And when I started to get more flexible work schedule where I could work at home sometimes, I got so much more done. I was so much more energized. So that kind of brain processing difference can cause a real imposter syndrome because you're literally confronted with people who do not understand you and your own needs.
And you think the problem is you are the
Yeah,
problem.
you think, oh, am I crazy? Am I stupid? Am I broken? And so that is something that is very much reflected back to you as you're the problem, which, as you can imagine, gives somebody imposter syndrome. Yeah,
of course. And so we have identified we have it. How does people overcome it?
Right. So the most important thing to realize is, because it has been told to you when you were young enough to absorb it, it's in you. So the first thing to do is really diagnose how it comes up in you. And that includes being aware of your own voices, your negative self-talk. So if you make a mistake and the immediate voice that comes up is, I'm so stupid. How can I do that stupid thing? That's a voice that comes from your negative self-talk. That is your imposter syndrome. Everyone makes a mistake. And if you immediately assume mistake equals stupid, then you have no room to try something new and make a mistake and pick yourself up and try again. You have decided that mistake equals stupid, and therefore you will never make any mistakes ever. So I say this from personal experience because this is very much the way I used to be. So I have to listen to my own negative self-talk. And when I say, oh, I'm being so stupid, what I immediately try to do is sit down, take out my journal, and write 3 amazing things about myself. Maybe 3 things I accomplished this week. Maybe 3 things I really like about myself. Something to counteract that negative self-talk. Just do it right then.
Like part of the workshop you gave,
yes.
You gave us.
Yes.
Magnificent. Yeah.
So you can do that anytime, literally anytime. And this is a journal that is for you. You don't have to show anybody. So you can be like, I'm the best one in the whole world. Nobody cares.
Maybe you are.
I have great, for you, I have great hair. Look at my great hair. It doesn't matter, whatever makes you feel great.
Good, yeah.
So really diagnosing that voice that is in your head that is telling you you're not good enough, you're stupid, you shouldn't try that because people will see you don't know what you're doing. You shouldn't talk. You shouldn't speak up in meetings. You shouldn't ask for a raise. You shouldn't ask for a promotion because then you'll just hear about how crap you are and the boss wants to get rid of you. All of that is negative self-talk. So really diagnosing those voices. It's not just in your voice, it's also in your body and in your general feeling about yourself. But the voice is really a great way to tell.
Or the perfectionist. Yesterday I was receiving a message from somebody doubting if she has it or not, because she said, I'm a perfectionist. It's never perfect. I need to recheck and redo stuff 1,000 times until I'm happy
Great.
and I feel safe. That is perfect.
Right.
Then I
Love that. All of that language is great to look at because that's a way to diagnose it. It needs to be safe. You use the word safe. Safe from what? Safe from whom? So think about that. One of the exercises I talk about in the book is running the full negative scenario all the way down. So what happens when it's not perfect? I'll get fired. Why would you think that would happen? If you're working in the Netherlands, they can't fire you. They can't fire you for making one mistake, right? Yeah. So it's not going to happen. Oh, I'm going to get yelled at by my boss. Great. What happens when you get yelled at by your boss? I feel embarrassed. So is embarrassment the worst thing that can happen? It's really good to run it all the way down into the worst case scenario, because what you find is the thing that you're dreading, you've built it up in your mind. It's not that bad. Yeah. And perfectionism is 100% connected to imposter syndrome.
Okay. I received another message yesterday, which I actually is written down in your book. I wake up at 3 a.m. thinking, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done this.
Yes.
I feel so stupid because, and so on, and it keeps this woman awake at 3 a.m.
Yes, yes. I could go on and on about the 3 a.m. thoughts. It is a real thing that we all struggle with at times. And the most important thing to realize that is anything that you think at 3 a.m. is a lie, period. It is your brain magnifying from exhaustion, from tiredness. It is a bit like having a waking nightmare. It's a bit like being awake during a nightmare. So you're creating a nightmare for yourself. Your brain is huge compared to what you use. And it's like ghosts occupy the rest of it. So it's ghosts roaming around giving you bad scenarios. And the worst scenarios come out at 3 a.m. So it is a really good thing to try to tell yourself that whatever is coming out at 3 a.m. is a lie. And if you can't get it out in your head, I strongly encourage you anyway to keep a book by your bed and to pull it out as soon as you start having those negative thoughts and just write all of this down, write it down. Because what it is, in essence, is taking a kind of like a glass full of poison and just pouring it out, just getting rid of it. It's not in your brain anymore because it's on the piece of paper. This is also a really good tip if you are really stressed and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to do Also, just write it down, get it out. Because your brain will continue to work on whatever you don't get out. So yeah, it is. As I said, it's like a waking nightmare, and it's just really important.
We couldn't say, okay, if you wake up at 3 a.m., you automatically has imposter syndrome. Probably you're stressed. And
oh no, yeah, no.
But maybe it's part of. Maybe you should.
I think it's just part of being human. I think that is part of being human because we all have brains that are too big, literally, and so it's ghosts in the brain, so to speak. People who have imposter syndrome have worse ghosts. That's what I'll say. They have more ghosts because they have more voices in their head telling them they're not good enough, or that they suck, or that somebody's going to figure out that they aren't good at what they do, whatever. So they've had created for them, very important difference, more ghosts. Okay. But I think everybody has the ghost in the brain that wakes them up at the 3 a.m. that says.
However, the difference I think is that if it's blocking you from success or not.
If it's blocking you from success, exactly that. I think the example I gave earlier for Hillary Clinton is a great example of that, because whether you love her or hate her, she did not look at that letter from NASA and go, oh, okay, well then I'll just go and be a housewife and live a quiet life. You know what I mean? Like, she was like, nope, I'm going to succeed, and then I'm going to give them what for, So everyone has imposter syndrome. It is what you do with that information and that knowledge that makes the difference. And so part one of what do we do about imposter syndrome is figuring out, diagnosing yourself, figuring out the negative self-talk and other ways that you keep yourself down. But step two is, what do you then do? What do you do about it? And it is, you are very likely, when if you have imposter syndrome and you ask, for example, a man, what should I do about finding it difficult to go for opportunities? And they will say, just go for it. Just do it. Not useful. That's not useful. Because if you could do it, you would have already been doing it, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So what I think is really most important is small steps. Do the work of figuring out what you are good at and what makes you special. Because I guarantee you, every single person is special. There is a purpose for you being here. You don't have to believe in God to believe that there's a reason for you to be here. You have a purpose. And if you feel unfulfilled in your life, that just means you haven't found it yet. And your purpose may not necessarily be connected to what you get paid for. There might be other ways to fulfill your purpose. But it is most important to be doing with at least part of your life the thing that your purpose is. And that is what will make you feel
like a star.
Yeah, less imposter syndrome, more like, oh, hey, I love this. And so one of the exercises I think is really good is figure out what is your flow. So flow is a concept which is what do you do where you sit down to do it, and an hour later you're like, you look up and you didn't even know time had passed, that you were so into it and that you got so much energy from it and that you felt so excited about it that time just passed. I mean, it's amazing. So for me, I used to be in corporate life. I used to be in marketing, and every minute was kind of really present. I knew about every minute. I didn't really enjoy it at all. And the minutes that flew by that I really loved were the minutes where I was training people and helping people and coaching people. And I was just, I loved it. I just absolutely loved it.
And you do it magistrally. You really do it.
Thank you.
Really good. Yeah.
And so for me, when I made that discovery, I said, well, how come I'm spending 90% of my time doing something I'm miserable at and 10% off? Flip it. So that is when I went into business for myself, doing training and coaching, because I realized that's the thing that lights me up. And the reason why, one of the reasons why people say you're so good at it is because I love it. I love it. And I wish for every single person that they find the thing where it lights them up. And again, maybe it's not a job. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's working with, I know a guy who works, one of my clients works in a corporate environment, and for his hobby, he works for a sports league. He loves that. That is his absolute passion. And that's where he gets his excitement. And that's fine if that's the way it works, but find it.
So get the fuel that fits your engine.
That's the thing. When you look at it, that's the thing where you're going to say, this is the thing that I know I'm good at, and it will make the imposter syndrome less. It is a generalization, but I will say it. I will say, if you really feel crippling imposter syndrome, it's because you haven't found the thing that makes you feel alive and feel like your purpose is fulfilled.
Yeah. And of course, we can ask for professional help. Actually, I will recommend to go search for professional help.
Yes.
We can go to psychologists, psychoanalysts, or coaches.
Right.
You also write about that in your book. What's the difference?
Yeah, it's a really great question. A lot of people ask, what is the difference between a therapist and a coach? I look at it like a triangle, and there's sort of three elements that make us up. There is ourselves, our personality. There is our past, all the things that kind of made up our growing up and our building up to ourselves. And then our environment, our friends, our work, our everything that is in our environment, our relationships. Coaches are really good at this, and we are not touching the growing up part, because it is very tangled up. It can be very difficult work. Like, you need really in some cases years and years to untangle stuff, and it is really a thing where you need a licensed therapist to kind of tackle the why of it. The why am I like this? What coaches do is really what is called cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like, hey, you want to create a new habit? Here's some small steps you can do to create a new habit for success. That's what coaches are really good at. Therapists are really good at why do I feel like this? Why do I feel like this? And so when I have clients who have that, so I kind of piece out, here's some stuff we can do to help you in this moment. We'll work on some new habits and some new ways to feel good about yourself and to find a circumstance where you feel that fulfilled potential. But I would really suggest you go to a licensed therapist to talk about the why of it. Why am I feeling like this? Because then you can really pull it apart and untangle it. So that's the line that I draw. I don't think the majority of coaches are not licensed therapists, so they should not be tackling kind of that area of why.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
You are a coach, yes, trainer, and an author, yes, author as well. Could you let us know a bit about your book? You also have written other books?
I have written this book, and then I have an ebook, which actually started as part of this book. When I wrote this book, I sat down and I really...
And why did you write it?
Why did I write it? So what happened was I was coaching a whole lot of people who were asking the same questions over and over again. Why can't I ask for a promotion? Why do I feel like I walk into a room and immediately I'm worried that everyone's going to... Same things over and over again. And then the pandemic happened, and I was not able to kind of see as many clients as I was seeing. And I really thought, it was almost like a panic of like, I can't help enough people. I can't help enough people. I won't be able to help enough people, even if I help dozens of people. And so that's where the book really came from. All of the exercises, I have many exercises in the book, come from exercises that I really did with clients. And the goal of this is to give everybody some tools to work on those things themselves. That was the goal. And so I wrote this whole book, and there was a huge section in there about negotiation, because negotiation is its very own special hell for people with imposter syndrome. Yeah, because when you are, what negotiation really is fundamentally about is confidence and believing that whatever you're asking for, you deserve it.
Yeah.
And so for people with imposter syndrome, it's impossible. And companies, if you're talking about, promotions or jobs or whatever, companies are not going to help you get better at that, because they sure don't want you to. So what I wanted to do was have a section on it. Negotiation. It seemed naturally to be part of a new kind of book, so I created an ebook of negotiation. I am working on another book, which has to do really specifically with, I have a lot of clients who really loved the structured environment of school. They really loved being given assignments and being graded. And when they got out of that situation into real life, where everything is vague, there's no reinforcement from the outside, they flopped. They did not do well. And so it's really talking about extrinsic motivation, being motivated by other people's opinions of you, versus intrinsic motivation. How can you motivate yourself to achieve what you want to achieve? How can you, and again, this is really, really reinforced by social media. So the whole idea of social media is, I will like you, and therefore you will have that validity, that you'll have some sort of worth. That's a terrible thing. Yes, we have lost our ability to know in ourselves that we are good and valid. It's very, connected to imposter syndrome, but it is really about, how do you pull the motivation into yourself? How do you stop making your motivation about money or status or what other people think of you? So That's to come. But this book is very much, this was quite easy for me to write the draft, at least. It was only 5 weeks from beginning to end. Because it is all stuff that I really practiced.
Have been working with.
Yeah. And the hardest part of it was, okay, I know imposter syndrome exists and is terrible. I need to go out and prove with numbers that it really affects the world. So the hardest part was there is a section in there called the cost of imposter syndrome. What is the cost of it to the world? And it's very high because I really believe that there are people out there who have great ideas but don't dare to do anything with them and don't dare to break out of their boxes to change the world in a really positive way. And that's not to say that your goal should be to be, the leading light of the world, but your small idea might be enough to change your community.
Somebody told me the world is full of poor geniuses.
Right. Exactly that. So, we live in a country where in education equality and income equality is pretty good. We both come from countries where that's not true. And it is very much about how much money you have is how much education you can afford and how much money, how
Status,
well the status is to get into that next level. So that poor genius thing is really true in some places in the world for sure. And not having the confidence in yourself is really going to stop you from being able to achieve the ideas that you have, because you need to go out to the world and tell them about how great you are
and negotiate for yourself
and negotiate what you deserve.
Absolutely.
So that's something I'm super passionate about. So I'm glad I was able to get it out into a book that people seem to really enjoy. I really believe that there are people out there who have great ideas but don't dare to do anything with them and don't dare to break out of their boxes to change the world in a really positive way. And that's not to say that your goal should be to be, the leading light of the world, but your small idea might be enough to change your community.
Somebody told me the world is full of poor geniuses.
Right. Exactly that. So, we live in a country where in education equality and income equality is pretty good. We both come from countries where that's not true. And it is very much about how much money you have is how much education you can afford and how much money, how well the status is to get into that next level. So that poor genius thing is really true in some places in the world for sure. And not having the confidence in yourself is really going to stop you from being able to achieve the ideas that you have, because you need to go out to the world and tell them about how great you are
and negotiate for yourself
and negotiate what you deserve. So that's something I'm super passionate about. So I'm glad I was able to get it out into a book that people seem to really enjoy. And it is something where I feel so excited to have brought it into the world.
It's I love it. It's also really like light to read. Let's say it's really clear the way you explain it. I'm almost done.
Wonderful. Yeah, the goal of it was I tend to write the way that I talk, which is kind of casual. And so my editor was like, "This is this is too casual." So it was had to be edited quite a lot, but I'm glad that it's easy to read.
Excellent, Lauren. And how do we find you if we want to be helped by you? How do we find
The best way to do it is on LinkedIn. Because of my stance on social media, I've really withdrawn from a lot of social media, but you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Please connect to me or follow me. I would love it. And yeah, buy my book.
Excellent. Thank you, Lauren, for being here and for sharing you.
Thank you very much.
So, Lauren, how do we contact you if people want to get help from you?
Sure. It's best to contact me on LinkedIn. It's the only real social media I use now. And yeah, please buy my book. It's got my contact details in there as well.
And you're helping people with imposter syndrome and well,
Also,
negotiation
any
skills.
kind of leadership coaching, especially if it's, if you need negotiation help or if you're really stuck with your next career move, I'm definitely am happy to help with that.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you for being here, Lauren, and for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me.